Welcome back into the Hog Roundup. As always, that's Ty Richardson. I'm Evan Kamiko. Ty, we've got a lot to talk about. Baseball's in town this weekend. Softball's in town this weekend. It feels like every sport's in town this weekend. Basketball is where we're going to start. We heard from Ryan Silverfield, Ron Roberts, Tim Cramsey, and Chad Lunsford earlier this week. We'll get to all of that in just a little bit. But let's start with Darius Acuff Jr.'s 49-point record-breaking game that'll be remembered as the game of the year that Arkansas lost 115-117 in double overtime.
Yeah, Darius was special. Cal, quick to point out that he was in a boot for 2 days prior to that performance. And you think about all the records he broke as a true freshman. You got to remember, this kid is the lowest level of eligibility in college basketball right now, and he was able to accomplish what he did. You know what it brought me back to? Buddy Hield in Lawrence, Kansas a couple years ago when he poured in, I think, 47, and they lost in triple OT to the Jayhawks. That's what it reminded me of. Darius's effort was so admirable, so just gutsy, and yet his team lost. A play or two here and there, and you walk away the victor. And now you look at that seed line. Alabama's got that edge over you. I know right now you're tied with them in Tennessee for second place in the SEC, but man, when it comes to Selection Sunday, I'd hate to think that could decide the Crimson Tide being above you in a seed line situation.
I want to get there. You know what? Screw it. Let's get there now, because I think I was playing tennis this morning and I was asked by one of the pros, like, where do you see kind of the season being now that you've lost another game like this, where Arkansas was on the road, they had another double-digit lead in this game, and they find a way to blow it. And instead of we're looking at the schedule, you could very easily be, I don't know, if you show up to one of Georgia or Auburn, we could sit here right now and say you're an 11-2 team in conference play. Does a loss like this that you've seen over and over again take away from what would be a really good season otherwise, to where it just feels like they're not living up to the hype when it comes to the standings?
I don't think so. I didn't think that they were going to win this game to begin with. I think we spoke about that last week. I think that Arkansas is going to win 4 of their next 5. I think they're going to lose in Gainesville a week from Saturday. And I think they're going to win the remaining games, including beating Missouri twice, beating A&M, and beating Texas. So that's how I feel right now. That's obviously subject to change. But I think, like, when you lose an emotional game like that, you can't let it be 2 games. The Razorbacks hadn't lost 2 games consecutively all season. Cal's done a really good job of getting them to bounce back, and I expect them to bounce back. I might take Missouri in the points this weekend, but I still think that the Razorbacks will get it done on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I think we're in for a really fun game this weekend. Dennis Gates has that team playing really well right now, which it seems like that they have played well the last couple of years, Missouri, but we'll get there in just a few. But we go back to this game last night. When you look at the defense, 117 points given up, is it, hey, this is just the type of game it was where every offense is going to score and you've got to make one more bucket? Or are you saying, man, this is a bad defensive performance again that we're seeing consistently? Because, I mean, how many games this season in SEC play has Arkansas's defense given up 85-plus points?
You have to balance that you went up against one of the best offenses in college basketball, number 1 tempo team with 7 players and 4 that fouled out. So you got to balance that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Arkansas is not a great team defensively. The last 3 games, 2 best players have been out 1, and you did neutralize Josh Hubbard, who went off last night in their victory over Auburn, who's now lost 5 straight. So I'll give them credit with the Mississippi State win, but Alabama has maybe the best guard trio in college basketball with Philon, Holloway, and Reitzel. And Reitzel didn't play that great, but Holloway was solid, 15 points, and Philon isn't talked about enough because Darius goes for 49. He had 31, and he was cooking in the second half. So the Razorbacks are not a great defensive team. They don't have a force in the middle outside of TB at times. I don't know, Malik Youn's got some blocks here and there, but more often than not, you can get into the paint with the Razorbacks and get off shots. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue. Now, to counteract that, Arkansas does not turn the ball over. They're really good at points in the paint. They can get after you defensively at times, but I just don't see this team, based on the way they play defense in the post at times, getting to Indianapolis, Indiana. Because that's the goal for John Calipari. You didn't hire John Calipari for just second weekend types. You not only can you get to the Final Four, but you could win the whole thing potentially at some point in time. I just don't think that point's in 2026. And I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope I am. I don't think I've never ever wanted to be wrong more than I am when it comes to that take. I just don't see it defensively, Ev.
It's harsh words, but I have to sit here and agree with you. I know Arkansas fans are getting on me a little after last week of like saying, oh, you don't like Arkansas, so, why are you talking about the Hogs? It's the reality of the situation. You look around the SEC right now, and again, 64 teams make the round. 68 teams make March Madness. One team gets to the final game and gets to hold the trophy. Like, at the end of the day, right now as we sit, Arkansas doesn't have the defense to be able to slow down a team like UConn, a team like, Alabama, Florida. We'll see what that game looks like next week in Gainesville. I can't wait for that. But the reality is, you look around the SEC, the only team I feel is built for March right now is the Florida Gators. Nobody else in the SEC, to me, a lot of them, I think 4 or 5 of them can make the second weekend. But when you talk about John Calipari and the expectation for this team, you mentioned it. It is Indianapolis. It's not a second weekend team. You did that already. That's your baseline. You have to make the Elite Eight Final Four for this year to be a success. And with this defense, the way they're playing right now, the way they've played this season, the expectation is you have to make an Elite Eight Final Four run. And right now, I believe the Gators are the only team in the SEC that can do that.
No, you're right, Evan. I wouldn't argue with that at all. I think what's wild about last night's game, and I forget the source of this statistic, but prior to last night, teams that scored 115 points and didn't turn the ball over more than 10 times were 247-0. Well, that became 247-1 or 274-1, whatever it was last night. And it just goes to show you that despite Arkansas having a fabulous freshman, an explosive offensive time, Malik Thomas doesn't get enough credit for what he did. I know he fouled out, but I think hit 6 of 8 from the 3-point line. And that was nice to see because he had struggled a little bit from the long ball. You still win games in March with both ends of the floor. And you have nearly everything you want offensively on one end. And I know, listen, the 5 position's not great, but you can get away with it on offense, not so much on defense. And it's not – when I say that, it's kind of like, when an offensive lineman gives up the sack, and people just always want to blame the offensive lineman, even though sometimes the quarterback didn't call it the right protection. That's the similar type of thing with these post guys, Nick Pringle and Malik Ewan. People always want to bash them and blame them for giving up paint points, but when Darius Acuff or Malik Thomas lay a guy and just let him blow by, it's you're putting your big man in a terrible situation, including Trevor Brazile or Billy, or hopefully when Carter comes back. So that's what I kind of equate it to when it comes to the defense that we've seen from those 2 freshman guards at times this season. Darius got off a screen last night and blocked a shot, but for the most part, those Alabama guards, particularly in the second half, got whatever they wanted. I mean, and they were hitting from downtown, too, and they were not missing at all. I think there was 13 straight possessions for Alabama at one point in this game with a basket. Anywhere from 8 to 13, it just felt like they weren't missing. Now, the one thing I know people want to talk about, it was a physical game last night. Cal mentioned it post-game, the foul discrepancy. 27-16, Arkansas was leading. They had 27 fouls. 4 guys fell out of this game. We've talked about it at length, Ty, where up until last night, it felt like when Arkansas's lineup shrunk, they played better. They played smarter. They didn't make as many fouls. Last night, it was flipped. Did you feel the refereeing was kind of fair? Did you feel there was something wrong there? Because when you look at that line, and the away team has 11 more fouls than the home team, any journalist will start scratching their head, and any coach will start saying, maybe it wasn't necessarily called the right way. Where do you feel on that? Arkansas took 3 less three-pointers, leading you to believe that they drove the ball more and got to the rim more. To me, when I watched it on the other end, like the fouls they called on Arkansas were fouls. But what I didn't understand is if you're going to draw the line in the sand on calling those, which that's your discretion, Doug Shows, I forget Jones and Don Daly. I forget the other referee of last night's ball game. You got to call it on both ends. You mentioned the discrepancy. I would say 2 or 3 of those were Arkansas trying to foul late to get the ball back. Right. So even at that, 8, 9 foul difference, nearly double digits like you alluded to, I can't buy into the idea that a team that's so predicated on driving, talking about the Razorbacks, had 8 or 9 less fouls called for them than Alabama. And Alabama, again, attacked the basket in the second half. And they were making 3-pointers too. Yeah. But I don't. There was a jump ball that they didn't call that I felt like they could have. It's just frustrating. I don't think it was, hey, this is why you lost. There have been games that
No, of
I was
course not.
very on the front lines, but I don't think it helped the situation for the Razorbacks either.
And you hit the nail on the head where Arkansas is usually a drive-first team. You didn't have your three-point guys towards the end of the game. The fact that DJ Wagner, and I'll read the stat line right here, I think finished with 6 three-pointers, 4 three-pointers taken off the bench. And some of these are wide-open shots that he hasn't hit all year.
Oh, wow. They're all wide
open.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that to me is a problem. DJ is at his best when he gets downhill and gets the ball to the glass, not when he's chucking up wide-open threes from the corner. I can go back and I remember it, the Texas Tech game where he's doing a fadeaway jumper from basically the three-point line to extend that game or tie that game, whatever it was. That's not your shot. And maybe it was like the necessity of doing it, but you can't be taking bad three-pointers. You can't be taking bad shots. And again, my point of this is when we look at free throws, Arkansas shot 19 as a team. Alabama shot 34. I think at one point it was like 20-6 towards the end of regulation. That's not the recipe for how this team wins, and yet it's the recipe they try every now and then. And the only difference is when they used to try it at Georgia, at Auburn, they got blown out. When they tried it last night, Darius Acuff, I don't know how you call it, whatever word you want to use, miraculously willed them into this game, only losing by 2.
Yeah, 6 3-pointers. Malik also hit 6s, so they combined for 12. Here's the issue. You brought up DJ. It's not like the 3-point attempts that he shot were bad. They were all open. Mm-hmm. He is the only other Razorback outside of the 2 freshmen that made it 3. TB missed a couple open looks. I think Billy missed 1. He's shooting like 10% in conference play from the 3-point line. I think that was what Jimmy Dykes said on the broadcast last night. So it's not like they weren't taking open looks, but in some cases you're open for a reason. 26 is not a terrible number. 13 and a half. I don't know what it actually was, but if you average that, it's not awful. And Arkansas again with Darius and Malik making 12 plus DJ hitting 13. They finished 50% from the 3-point line last night. So that's, how many times do you lose? Go on the road, shoot 50% from the 3-point line and lose? Well, it happened to Arkansas last night. I think Cal is in a situation, especially late when he got into fouls, where it was just almost a no-win type of situation. Just when they piled it up, you had Carla Wetz would come in. I thought Aiden Kelly was going to come in too, but they went with Zofich. And you had 3 big men at one point: TB, Zofich, and Malik Ewan down the stretch, and you still almost won the game, which is wild, but that's college basketball. And now you just have to bounce back on tomorrow against Missouri.
Best game of the season. Where do we rank this amongst the top college basketball games in 2026?
Man, it was great. We were there in Dallas. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. Despite it being a loss, that was just an incredible college basketball game. 2 overtimes and shots near the end of regulation, OT and double OT that would have extended it, would have been nuts. It has to be up there. I can't. Do you have a game? And I apologize for not knowing this on the spot, Ev. Do you have a game that tops it?
I was thinking like maybe I think there was a really good Iowa State game earlier this week that could be close, but like when it comes to SEC games,
Iowa State Houston was a good game.
Yeah, like that would be the only game that I could think of that is like close that you could put it, but no, I think hands down this was game of the year.
It's hard to argue. Funny enough, I think about, so if it ends up going down as the game of the year, there was a game of the year in 2021 that Arkansas played in football. Ole Miss, game of the year in the according to ESPN, they lost 53-52 or 52-51, whatever it was. There was that 2-point conversion that Ole Miss stopped with KJ and company. So I don't know why. And Arkansas won some of those long overtime games years ago, like Ole Miss in Kentucky. They lost to Tennessee. They lost to, I'm forgetting that there's another one wrinkled in there. But for whatever reason, it just feels like that anytime Arkansas is featured, and most notable, 1969 versus Texas, the game of the century, 15-14. It seems like when Arkansas is a part of those games, they're on the wrong end. And unfortunately, you were on that Wednesday night.
And again, Arkansas looking for their first ranked road win since I believe 1995 was the Hog stat yesterday. So
It's been
that's
31 years.
Yeah, Hayden, Trey, and I were looking into it. It's been that long since they've gotten a road ranked win in conference play, I believe.
31 years.
Yeah.
Man, that is surprising.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Oh man, you're just getting Hog stats. Incredible job. And as I continue to read his stuff, different tidbits, stats that he has after last night or after Wednesday night's loss, it just made me sick to my stomach that they lost that basketball game.
But hey, the good news, you get to do it again next week when you go to Gainesville. So you never know, anything is in the cards. But all right, Ty, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, you mentioned the game of the century. We talked some football. We snuck some football in there. We're breaking down Ryan Silverfield's press conference with his 3 coordinators. That's coming up next as the Hog Roundup rolls on after the break. All right, back here on the Hog Roundup. Ty Richardson, I'm Evan Kamiko. Ty, let's talk about football. Again, it feels like every week we're slowly building up to spring ball. It starts officially March 15th. We got to hear from Ryan Silverfield for the second time as the head Hog, but we also got his 3 coordinators for the first time. Overall takes from this press conference. Again, it's like we say every week, there's excitement kind of building, but you have to be cautiously optimistic until we see the results on the field. What'd you take from each of the coordinators that you liked, didn't like? What are your thoughts on the pressers?
I thought Tim Cramsey was funny when he talked about ball security and the microphone was interesting. Memphis did a good job forcing turnovers, and they didn't have a lot of them, if I remember correctly, last season, which I know Arkansas was the complete antithesis of that the last 2 years, which stinks. You want to get rid of those. In terms of Ryan Silverfield and Coach Cramsey, it's the quarterback competition. Sounded like Coach Cramsey was more honest about, like, might be a week out from the game, end of fall camp, second week of fall camp, and before we make a decision. Now, they're completely well within reason and within their own right to change their mind. KJ could win the job definitively in the spring, and there's no back-end spring portal that they have to worry about unless it's a grad transfer of a QB moving on. Mm-hmm. You can't transfer out after the spring. So if you feel like KJ's your guy, maybe pull the trigger early and make the announcement. I don't know. There's so many things that go into coaching that I don't anticipate or consider. But yeah, the quarterback stuff, spring game, whatever, practice, whatever. At least he knows the value of trying to show the fans, hey, this is what the team's going to be. There's a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces here. Yeah. But that's the most intriguing part of this spring and fall.
Yeah, because it felt like for a while when KJ announced he was coming back that, it's pretty much said and done. KJ Jackson's going to be more likely than not the starting quarterback here at Arkansas. But then you hear from Cramsey, and it's like, wait a second, let's pump the brakes on that, because A.J. Hill, although we didn't see a lot of time last year, has the size, has the weight that you would want for a typical SEC quarterback, where KJ is a little bit on the smaller end. So I think that'll be really fun to watch over the next couple of months to develop that quarterback battle that we didn't really think we were going to get in Fayetteville, and really haven't had a QB battle since, 2021 with KJ?
Yeah, and even that, you might even have to go back. So if I do the timeline just off of the top of my head, you had Ben Hicks. You might even have to go back to the Morris days, because Felipe was 2020, KJ was 21, KJ was 22, KJ was 23, 24, Talon 25. Taylor, yeah, really, you'd have to go back to Ben Hicks and Nick Starkel with Chad Morris in 2019. That's a long ways away. That's a time we don't have to go back to. We don't want to go back to. So, again, you want your guys to be motivated, and there might be more to this, like you're alluding to. I could be wrong. Who knows? Yeah. It could be a lot more intriguing of a spring if this is an actual battle, though.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of the talking points that we have from football. Again, like, we can sit here and say all we want that, like, we're excited for the special teams and stuff. Max Gilbert coming in from Tennessee, who I think is obviously the impact day one starting kicker, because Scott Starzik no longer here. And then on the defensive end, like, it is a whole new defense that's coming in that's going to be built around Quincy Rhodes Jr. And I like that Ron Roberts, soft-spoken guy, didn't say too much, but excited to work with Rhodes. I mean, again, he returns 43 total tackles, 8 sacks from last year. Said that's a corner piece you'd like to have day one when you walk into the building. So credit to Ryan Silverfield for keeping him around, and it seems like, again, he will be the focal point on defense, but it's, can Ron Roberts scheme guys around him, because Quincy's going to get double teamed all fall. Like, it's kind of that the Cam Ball or Landon Jackson edge of it from 2 years ago where Landon was getting double teams left and right, couldn't really get the production that he had the year before. I anticipate the same with Quincy. The only difference is, can the defensive coordinator and Ron Roberts scheme guys around to help out Quincy Rhodes and get pressure that we have not seen what feels like in Fayetteville since 2023.
Yeah, and Quincy, if I remember correctly, nearly had double-digit sacks, 8.5, 9, kind of somewhere around that range, and he elected to come back. And he talked about Ryan Silverfield, I believe, was the first coach that started to recruit him when he was at North Little Rock, and so that's a connection that he's had for years. And to see him and KJ Jackson, I know it's Coach Silverfield's announcement. People were excited to see that, and now you like him to take that next step. You like him to be an all SEC first teamer on the defensive side of the football. So you have an anchor there. But you talked about it, like, if you're going to double team him, then someone else got to make a play. It's kind of like in basketball, when a kid's getting double teamed or someone's shading to that side, you got to have someone else that can make a play. If they don't have anyone else on the defensive line going to play that can make a play, then Quincy's going to get neutralized, and we're going to be in a similar position we were last year, which is watching Arkansas have a bad defense. Now, surely they can't be as bad as they were last year, but I've seen a lot of bad football in the last few years.
I was going to say,
I hope this season.
Bad football is easily repeatable. Good football is hard to repeat. Like, you can have multiple bad years in a row. I've seen a lot of it. 2 of my 4 years here covering, 3 years here covering the Razorbacks have been sub-4 win teams. So I feel like it, but again, different regime, different standard. I'm excited to see what Ryan Silverfield's going to have in store, but it's all about tapering expectations, knowing what the rest of the conference looks like versus what Arkansas is going to look like.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and then. I know there's storylines galore everywhere. You got Pete Golden at Ole Miss, and the Trinidad Chambliss news. You've got LSU and Lane Kiffin. You've got so many different things across the SEC. Arkansas is going to be well under the radar. And before we know it, we're going to be in Tampa, Florida at SEC Media Days, Ev.
And maybe, who knows, maybe it's best case scenario for Arkansas to fly under the radar, not really be talked about with all of the news the last couple of years and the noise the last few years about Pittman being on the hot seat. So maybe a change of pace could be a good thing for Arkansas, because I know the talk of Media Days the last 2 years has been, Sam, you're on the hot seat. Sam, you're on the hot seat. Sam, you're on the hot seat. Who knows? Maybe it's start of good things.
Let's hope that's the case. I think Razorback fans needed a refresher, and football-wise, you just want them to show more signs of life, because unfortunately last year, I know they were close in some games, but man, just subjecting yourself to last season was tough, and watching the team blow it multiple games in similar ways or close battles, it was it's tough to be a Razorback fan at times, Evan.
The greatest 2-10 team ever assembled on the college football field, Arkansas 2025.
Yes.
All right, we'll take one more break, couple more things on Hog Roundup when we come back. Back here, rounding up shop on the Hog Roundup. That's Ty Richardson. I'm Evan Kamiko. Ty, it is a extremely busy week here on the Hill. Arkansas softball opens up this weekend at home. SEMO and Northwestern coming to town. Arkansas baseball going to take on Xavier in their home opening series. There's a lot of excitement right now. Spring sports is finally here. It is in full swing. What's your take on what's going to be a great weekend on the Hill?
It's so fun to have Bob Walker Stadium back, and the new scoreboard addition's great. You've got fans that look forward to this weekend every single year. Weather's not terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's great here in Northwest Arkansas this weekend, relative to what I feel like has been an awesome week leading up to it. But I think about Xavier for their basketball program. I don't know anything honestly about their baseball team to just be 100% forthcoming with you. But Dave Van Horn, I know, is excited about his team. They're top 10 everywhere. Saw some pitchers that you'd seen before, some infielders. And, man, I'll tell you what, Damian Ruiz, that kid can get on base. And hopefully that stretch, I know it was 13 straight last weekend at Globe Life. Hopefully that stretch can continue, and we'll see more stretches like that this season. When you have Cam Koziel, you also have Ryder Helfrich and some of those guys behind you, man, it sure makes their job easier when they see a kid on first base or it's leading off with the double based on how he's able to get on base.
Who you got as the first Hog get home run this weekend at Bob Walker?
I think it's one of those guys I just mentioned. It's going to be Koziel or Helfrich. Now, we've seen at least through 4 games, that they have plenty of guys that are capable. Got to remember, again, that's an MLB ballpark. They're back at a more favorable place. Don't know where the wind's going to be moving this weekend. That's always a factor. But I'll say between Cam and Ryder, if you're going to put money, that I would put it on one of those guys.
I'm going with Reese Robinette. That's been my pick all week, so I will keep that pick. I like it. Give me Big Country to hit the first bomb.
I go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I met his parents at a awesome place called Phil's in Baton Rouge. They were as nice as can be. When I told him, I just remember Reese as a younger guy. I was like, this kid looks like he was a college senior when he was a freshman. It is wild how big and muscular and just jacked he is. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend for sure. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Hog Roundup. For Ty Richardson, I'm Evan Kamiko. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Remember, like and comment. Let us know what we want to hear us to talk about next week, and we will surely have all of that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on the Hog Roundup.